I wasn't there because I believed in possession. I was there because they needed a fourth person. Everything was calm until the girl looked at the priest and said, "You don't have permission." And then the candles went out, all at once. Today's story is entitled, "We Tried to Perform an Exorcism." Something answered instead, and it starts like this. I was there only because they needed a fourth person. That's the only reason. Not because I was religious, not because I believed in possession. I was just the extra body. Someone to hold the door, keep things steady, make sure no one panicked. I wish I had panicked. The girl's name was Emily. She was 17. I knew her from school. Quiet, polite, the kind of person teachers trusted instinctively. Her parents said she'd changed. That was the word they kept using, changed. Mood swings, sleeplessness, long stretches where she stared at nothing and didn't respond when spoken to. Eventually, she started talking to someone who wasn't there. When doctors found nothing wrong, her parents called a priest. Father Callahan didn't look like what I had expected. No dramatic presence, no booming voice. He looked tired, old, like a man who'd already lost arguments with God. He asked us all to clear the living room. Candles, salt lines, and a table with a Bible so worn it looked fragile. He didn't rush. That should have comforted me, but it didn't. Emily sat in his chair in the center of the room, wrists loosely tied, not restrained. Father Callahan said, "Just secured." She looked bored. "I don't want to be here," she said. Her voice was calm, normal even. Father Callahan asked her name. She answered correctly. He asked the date. Correct again. He asked if she knew why we were here. She smiled. For the show, of course. That was the first time anyone flinched. The prayers began quietly. Latin mostly, I didn't recognize the words, but I recognized the rhythm. Call and response, authority and command. Emily's foot started tapping, faster and faster. Her breathing changed. Deep, slow and deliberate, like she was controlling it manually. When Father Callahan commanded the identity to identify itself, Emily laughed. Not hysterically, but amused. "You always ask that," she said, "but you never listen to the answer." Father Callahan didn't raise his voice. "Who are you?" he asked again. Emily tilted her head. "I was invited." Her chair rattled. I noticed then that the candles weren't flickering, not even slightly. The air felt thick, like the room was holding its breath. Father Callahan placed his hand on her forehead. That's when Emily screamed. Not words, but just pain. Pure animal terror. Her body arched so hard the chair tipped, and it took all four of us to keep her from hitting the floor. Her eyes rolled back, then snapped forward again, locking onto Father Callahan. "You don't have permission," she snarled. That wasn't her voice. It was layered, like two people speaking slightly out of sync. Father Callahan continued the prayer. Emily began reciting things about him. His childhood home, his mother's illnesses. The night he almost quit the priesthood. Each detail landed like a blow. I saw doubt cross his face. That's when I realized this wasn't about strength. It was about authority. And something else in that room believed it had more. The temperature dropped even further. I don't mean figuratively. I saw our breath fog. Emily's restraint snapped. The ropes didn't fray, they didn't loosen, they broke. She stood up. No one moved. Not because we were frozen, but because something in us knew we were no longer participants. We were witnesses. Father Callahan raised the Bible and spoke the final command. "By the authority of..." Emily lunged. She stopped inches from his face, smiling. "Wrong name," she whispered. The candles went out simultaneously, every single one. In the dark, we heard something move. Heavy, slow, and deliberate. The light returned. Emily was unconscious on the floor. The room was normal again. Father Callahan was sitting, shaking, staring at the Bible like it had betrayed him. He didn't say the exorcism was complete. He said we had interrupted something. Emily woke up in the hospital the next day. She remembers none of it. She's calm now, quiet again, and normal. Her parents think that it worked. Father Callahan resigned a week later. He won't speak to any of us. Sometimes when I see Emily at the store, she smiles and waves, but her eyes linger just a little bit too long, like she's checking to see if I remember. And every once in a while, just before she turns away, I swear she mouths 2 words towards me. Almost finished. The end. That was a really good one. I think there is definitely a lot of stuff that we could do differently in this scenario. I think that first off, if you are not super about being a part of something like this, don't go. I think a lot of times in our lives, it's okay to be a fence sitter. It's okay to not be fully bought in. It's okay to not be fully out of wanting to do something and just do it, you know? But this is definitely not one of those times. This is definitely not one of those, well, I guess I might as well. No, this is one of those things where even if you don't believe in any of it, you should be at least willing to not just be a bystander and either actively participate or, I don't know, do something productive so that you're not going to end up being a detriment. I feel like if there is someone there who, doesn't believe a whole lot and then they're just kind of not taking it super serious, not necessarily like the protagonist was. I'm not saying that they were doing that, but I'm saying if there was an instance where this was happening and then something did happen, it's almost worse than just not having someone in that spot to begin with. That's my point. I think that changing things, well, one, come more prepared. You could do more research. You could try and understand better how you can prepare yourself. If you're trying to expel a demon, where does it go, right? Are you vulnerable for it to just jump right on over to you? These are things that you would want to know. These are things that you would want to prepare. These are things that you would want to, again, not be a fence sitter for. I think there's a lot of lessons we can learn here. I think the protagonist and kind of the antagonizing force and the girl that's associated with the antagonizing force have a lot of parallels. And I think that we have a lot we can learn from the priest as well. I think kind of first off, the curiosity that the protagonist has to maybe check this out. And then once you hear that the demon says, I was invited, well, what kind of would lead that girl to go down the path towards that, right? If you think about that and you think about the skepticism of the protagonist and how it's kind of a parallel, I would say it probably is something that the antagonist girl was doing. I think that it's just a sign to take more things serious in our lives. Even if we don't think it's serious, even if it's just, your friend coming over and saying, hey, let's play with a Ouija board. Whatever it is, take it serious, right? There's all fun and games and all, but if there are things out there that could be out there, if there are things that you don't want to come and kill you, why would you even try and play with it? My point is, it doesn't matter if you believe in ghosts. It's a pretty dumb idea to go to a Native American burial ground and just start dancing around on, this sacred area. That's my point. Take things serious when they should be. It's okay to have fun. It's okay to, not be a stick. But at the same time, when there are things that are, not just a game, don't treat it like a game. Be serious. Be researching the things you do. Be intentional with what you do. I think that's another theme that kind of comes up a lot in these stories is be intentional. Don't just be a floater in your own life. Be all in or be all out. Don't live with regret. I also think we can learn a lot from the priest. Now, if you kind of look at it from a faith point of view, a lot of the things that priests do are based on the priest's faith. So, if in the end he is looking at the Bible like it betrayed him, I would say he didn't have the faith necessary to do anything in the first place. Now, to me, as someone who has faith, I believe that faith is not only believing that things can happen, but also understanding that when things don't happen, it's because it wasn't supposed to happen. So if I have faith that there is a miracle that is going to happen, like let's say, I have a loved one that's real sick, and I have faith that they will get better, and I'm praying and I'm doing all these things, right? I have to have the faith that if they don't get better, my faith doesn't just magically go away. Because if I only have faith that the thing is going to happen, if it doesn't happen, did I actually have faith? No, I didn't. So I think that that's a good sign from the priest here that he didn't have faith. He was doing all of the correct things, but he didn't have the faith. And I think going to a faith way of looking at this and how we can apply it to ourselves, because I think whether you believe in God or the scriptures or have faith or anything like this or not, they are a large part of our society. And whether you believe in it or not, there's a lot that you can learn from it. I think all mediums of stuff and literature and culture you can learn from whether you agree with it or not. I think trying to just, turn your head from it and say, no, I don't believe in any of that, is kind of just being ignorant for the sake of it. So what can we learn from this priest guy? I'll give you a second to think about it. I think it is a great kind of symbol for our lives. How many times have you done something and you did all the right steps? Maybe you watched a YouTube video or whatever, but the whole time you were doing it, you just didn't really believe that you could do it. You were doing all the right steps, but you just didn't believe in it. And then it came time to finish, and you didn't get what you wanted. I think a lot of us have so much kind of failure in our lives that we kind of preemptively shortchange ourselves. We kind of preemptively say, oh yeah, it's not even going to work anyway, so I'm not going to get my hopes up. I'm not going to work very hard at this. I'm going to kind of bail out before I've even stopped doing the thing because I don't want to get hurt in my emotions. And again, that goes back towards, in another way, be all in or be all out. If you don't want to do the thing, don't do the thing. If you want to do the thing, do the thing. Believe it's going to work. Believe in yourself. Invest in yourself. Do things, try things, be things. Or don't. But don't just do it halfway and then, I don't know, maybe I'll do it, maybe I won't, and then get to the end and it's going to turn out real awful. And you say, well, I guess it just wasn't for me. No, I guess you weren't just for it. No, I guess you didn't put in the required stuff to get out what you wanted. If you don't put in 100% of yourself, why would you expect to get 100% out? Everything that we do in our lives, it's measured, right? You can measure the input, you can measure the output. Almost always it's proportional. Almost always it's a direct link. What you put in is what you get out, right? If I don't care very much about something, why is it going to give me $1 million? Why is it going to change my life? Why is it going to do this, this, and this for me? It's not. But if you buckle up and give it your all, you're going to learn a lot. Because at the end, you're probably going to have to take responsibility, fail or not, and you're going to say, wow, I really did do it. And if you fail that first time, but you put your everything into it, you can say, you know what? I know exactly what I need to do next time. But if you're not all the way in with both feet, and you get to the end, you don't really learn a whole lot because you weren't paying attention. You weren't really in it. So, in simpler words, in a sentence or two here, be all in or be all out. Believe in yourself, invest in yourself, be okay with failing, but don't expect failure. Be humble enough to understand when you aren't perfect at something, but be humble enough to understand that you aren't awful at everything. I once heard that it's almost a reverse at the other end of the spectrum of pride, that being pride again, when you say, oh, I'm just awful at this. Well, thanks for being so prideful and telling me. Have you ever thought about it like that? I'd love to hear thoughts on that. And I've been rambling on for a little bit. So with that, I think we're going to end that analysis of that story. What did you think of the story? What did you think of the lesson that I had thought from it? Is there anything different you would have done in the story? I'd really appreciate hearing your comments down below. And as always, if you enjoyed the video, I'm Cece. This is the Crucible of Character. I really do like breaking down these stories. I really love looking for the stories, and I like all the parts of doing this YouTube thing. So if you enjoyed today's story, please make sure to like, comment your thoughts and how I can improve, and subscribe so you can see tomorrow's video. And with that all, I love you all. Goodbye.